Hello, and welcome to another episode of Lens of Hopefulness with me, your host, John Pasadino. In this episode, I interviewed Julia Lindenthal and Hannah Litman, both of the heartfoundation.org, an organization dedicated to heart disease research, trying to find a cure and prevention. Julia has raised money in honor of her late father, John George Lindenthal, who died suddenly from heart disease, which is the number one killer in the United States. I feel that this episode will enlighten you and inform you of things you didn't know about heart disease. It'll also tell you what you can do to help yourself and to help others. I hope you'll enjoy it, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so we can spread more hopefulness during this Lens of Hopefulness series. Thank you.
Analyzing life.
Considering the answers.
Lens of Hopefulness with John Pasadino.
With guests.
Heart disease prevention advocates Julia Lindenthal and Hannah Litman.
Welcome, Hannah and Julia, to Lens of Hopefulness with me, John Pasadino. I'm so happy you joined me today.
So happy to be here.
And for those who just joined, it's Hannah. Oh, I got this. Hannah Drake Litman. Look at that. I got all three names on the first try. I only had to look down once.
That was good.
And Julia Lindenthal. And both have a story to tell, and both are affiliated with an organization. I'm going to pop up some graphics right now. This is Julia's late dad. And I'm very sorry for your loss, by the way. And this is a fundraiser that Julia started upon his passing, and with the Heart Foundation, and that's what the website looks like, and that is where Hannah is from. So we have a lot to talk about, starting with Julia's story, and then we'll go right into heart issue prevention, heart disease prevention. And I will talk about myself too, because I have my story to tell about heart disease. So I think we'll kick it off first with Julia, because Julia's the first person I met, and I became enamored with her story and very interested in it because of my family's background. So Julia, I'm going to kick it over to you for you to tell us your story about your dad and your mission.
Sure. So thank you for having me and us on, John. It's a great privilege to be here. We'll just take it back a little bit. So it was November of 2024, and it was a Saturday morning, and I got a phone call from my mom, and I knew right away that it was strange because my parents never called me, at that time, usually on a Saturday or Sunday morning that early. So I already knew something might have been up, and I picked up the call, and she told me the unthinkable, right? That Dad had died, and my entire body went cold in a way that I never even knew was possible. And I was in Arizona. And, again, all of this was so shocking to us. One, because my father, at least on the outside, wasn't seemingly such great health. And we thought he had years left, right? We thought that for sure he would live until his 90s, likely, maybe if we were unlikely, late 80s. We just didn't even think it was possible for him at 80 for this to happen to him. He was winning tennis tournaments. He had just won the men's doubles where he played. He never smoked. He hardly drank. He ate pretty well. So we went to the doctor. He was responsible. So we just didn't even think this was possible. And so coming out of my morning in the month following my father's passing, I started to do some research. We decided to do an autopsy first and foremost, shortly after he passed, and it was very clear right away what killed him, which it was aortic dissection. His aorta right by the upper part of his artery his aorta artery right by his heart severed. But according to the pathologist, this happened because there was calcified plaque that had hardened one side of his aorta, weakening the other side. So, and then, we also learned that, his aorta closer to his legs was almost completely calcified, she said, with calcified artery plaque. And the night, my father never complained about almost anything, but the night that he passed, right, the hours before then, he actually had said to my mother, "My legs are shot." And my mother didn't think anything of it, but looking back, for him to say that, we just think it might have been a little reflective.
Yes.
So learning about all of, about what happened to him, and then it caused me to look into do some more research. And I actually found out that a large percentage of Americans and people worldwide die of these heart-related issues, and that there isn't currently, a lot of these heart-related issues are certainly sometimes connected to artery plaque and calcified artery plaque, and there isn't currently a real cure for either of those. And so it made me want to research the foundations and the businesses that were doing some of the best work and really focusing on finding a cure for calcified and or artery plaque. And that took me to, reaching out to the Heart Foundation and starting a fundraiser in his name. And here we are.
And I brought that back up so people could see again. And amazing that you've raised that much money. And it's really such a wonderful thing that you've done, by the way. I give you a great deal of credit. And again, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for telling that story. And let's go back to Hannah. And Hannah, tell us about your organization that's doing this terrific work. And I'm saying, the way I'm saying it is because I actually have an artery that's partially blocked, and I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not funny at all. I'm very fortunate in that I didn't have to have a stent. I'm just on medications, and I'm exercising and eating right and all that. And I am 67 years old, full disclosure. So, and I know heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States. So, and I'll let you talk in a second, I promise. But when I went over to your website, I was flipping around and going, wow, all this stuff I need to continue looking at. What I find is it's complacency. And I'm not saying your father was complacent, by the way, Julia, but we all take our health for granted at varying times. And I think that's why heart disease is it's a silent killer usually. I mean, your father got a warning sign late, but okay, now I'm going to Hannah to talk about the foundation. Take it away, Hannah.
Thank you, John. Just as Julie said, very, very honored and flattered to be here and speaking with you about this. The Heart Foundation was founded in 1996. So actually right now we are celebrating our 30th year of being a nonprofit. And we were started by a group of 30-somethings.
Wow.
Essentially a group of kids, right? When a 35-year-old man named Stephen Cohen, he was married, father of 2. His daughters were both under the age of 10. And I always say, like, Steve looked like somebody who today, if you were to be swiping on like TikTok, he would have been a fitness influencer or something. You wore tank tops and you saw his arm muscles. Very active guy. Seemingly healthy, and was playing his weekly game of pickup basketball and started not feeling well and suffered a fatal heart attack. I'm 36, so this is now my age group. If that happened to one of my friends right now, and I work in, heart health, in the heart health world, heart disease world, it is all consuming for me. I still would be shocked. It would still be so surprising because when people think of heart disease, you think of somebody who is older, maybe lives a sedentary lifestyle, maybe is overweight. You expect to see all of these different lifestyle choices that point to heart disease.
Yes.
And obviously that wasn't Steve's case. He was unaware that he had a family history. So his shocking passing and how impactful his passing was obviously informed his friends, his family, his community of the prevalence of heart disease, and basically the fact that it can impact anyone at any time. And so all of his loved ones came together. They wanted to save other families from suffering a similar sort of loss and feeling that immense impact. And they also wanted to be a part of the future of the fight against heart disease.
Yes.
And so that is when the Heart Foundation was born. And we've partnered with Smidt Heart Institute at Cedars-Sinai, which is one of the leading cardiovascular institutes in the country. Mm-hmm. And we support research that is spearheaded by Dr. P.K. Shaw and his team in his lab. And some of the research that they have done is just unbelievable. It's on the forefront of tackling this issue that Julia was talking about of arterial plaque. Right. And how to not only prevent it, but also how to reverse it. And some of the research that we've helped fund right now is in the production of 2 therapies, which would do exactly that: fight arterial plaque and reverse arterial plaque. And one of them is in a phase 2 clinical trial, human clinical trial right now. So very, very promising work, and it's looking very positive. It's very important to us, and we're so honored to be a part of like this past, present, future of the fight against heart disease. We're honoring Steve Cohen's legacy. We are spreading awareness in real time, and then we're funding the future of heart health and of hopefully making heart disease not the leading cause of death in America. We'd like to get it down on the list, please, somewhere, right?
I also thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I also wanted to mention that my mother, father, brother, all 3 of them had heart disease. My mother died suddenly, similar to what Julia said. She didn't feel well. It was that last hour or 2, and she passed away suddenly at age 65. And the same thing happened to my brother, age 66. So,
I'm so sorry.
And my father was 67 with very bad heart disease, but he knew about it, but he got cancer from asbestos inhalation. So we know it's rampant in my family. And when you were talking about the therapies, you're talking about something that could, a drug that doesn't just remove the fat and doesn't just reduce cholesterol,
correct.
Lipids. It actually will go to the artery wall and remove plaque. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I mean, I am not a doctor, correct? Right.
Course,
so I'm not super well versed on all the terminology, but yes, because plaque is not just cholesterol. Somebody can I have a family member who has cholesterol, like their total cholesterol is nearing 300, when ideally you want your total cholesterol to be under 200. And this family member's cholesterol is nearly 300. However, 0 plaque in their arteries.
Oh, wow.
At all.
Huh.
Right. So actually, and they see a cardiologist, they do everything correctly, live just exactly the same type of lifestyle that Julia was just describing of her father. But her arteries look great. And so it's not a problem at all. And they're not worried about that for her. It truly is a case by case thing, because that plaque it's not just cholesterol, it's cellular waste, it's calcium, there are tons of elements that come together that cause that hardening plaque.
Right. Now, Julia, for your dad, this is exactly what you found upon the autopsy, correct? There was calcification.
Correct.
So you didn't say fat, you said calcification. That's actually calcium deposits that are like almost like a crusty, I'm visioning deposit.
Well, I mean, to my knowledge, it's it's when they're saying it's almost completely calcified. It seems as though the plaque had really hardened in those areas, right? Which generally might, from my research, and again, yes, not being a doctor, just from the general research that I've done, that would restrict blood flow, and that would cause other issues, right, including aortic dissection, right, which is what my father passed away from, but also heart disease, heart attack, congenital heart failure. I just found it to be interesting. I mean, one of the reasons why I I chose to do this is because I was shocked that I didn't know that there wasn't already a cure for this, and I was shocked that I just didn't know, that all of these heart-related issues certainly are sometimes related to artery plaque, right, from the research I've done. And after my father passed, in order to try to learn about what happened to him and to also be proactive and take things into my own hands, I got a recommendation for a top cardiologist or someone who's considered to be a top cardiologist in New York. And when I went to see her, I went to ask her about this, and I'll never forget what she said to me, quote unquote, if there was a cure for artery plaque or artery plaque removal, my patients would be living forever. So now doing all this research, I've connected with a few of the CEOs who run these privately held biotech companies. It doesn't surprise me at all that certainly some of them have been involved in the longevity space. Yeah. And, a number of these companies were founded in around between 2016, 2018, when longevity, became more of a prominent issue, something that was talked about more, I think, in the media. Yeah. I think that we could potentially have a cure in the nearest future, right? I think there's a lot of good work and research being done. But if I wasn't aware of any of this, if I wasn't aware that this is this kills approximately, 25% of Americans, approximately 33% of people worldwide, and I was blessed with a good education and, read the newspaper pretty regularly, I felt like, well, then a lot of other people are not aware, and why not hand in hand try to advocate and try to support fundraising efforts through that to find a cure, to do my part to do that, while memorializing my father, which is the only thing I can really do for him now that he's no longer physically with us.
I think it's so honorable, like I said again, because I know it's not easy to face it. So, we all handle grief a different way, which is something we could talk about too. I wanted to say a couple of things I was thinking about is that going back to anybody can have the disease is, I remember David Letterman, the talk show host, was a runner, and he had a quintuple bypass relatively young. And there was another, because of heart disease, there was another person, Jim Fixx, the runner. He actually started like a running movement way back in I think it was the 80s, 90s, and he passed away from a sudden heart attack too. And they found that he had plaque. So it's one of these, if the disease is there, it's, and it's not detected, it doesn't matter. Like you said, your father was in such great shape, and so many others are in great shape. So what I wanted to tell my story real quick is that I went for there's called a calcium screening to get a calcium score. And that's what alerted my primary care doctor. He said he saw calcification of the arteries, and he sent me for what's called an angiogram, I think it's called, where they actually look inside the arteries while you're awake, and they could see what's blocked and what's not blocked, and that's what happened with me. Now, for me, medication-wise, is I was put on people have heard of statins, like
my father was on one.
Yeah, so I'm on the max dose of a statin, plus I'm on a drug called Repatha. I happen to have one with me, and if they want to sponsor me, they can.
Hey, John, we supported the research that led to the development of Repatha.
Repatha.
Hey, there you go.
That's a free advertisement for Repatha, but I actually have to inject this every 2 weeks, and it removes the fats. We were talking about 300s before. My cholesterol has been as high as 375. And my triglycerides have been up in like 1600s. And there was a book, back in the 90s, there was a book by Dr. Dean Ornish called Reversal of Heart Disease. And he did studies that you could reverse heart disease, but you had to be a vegan, and you had to practice it to the letter. And then he said he proved that heart disease was reversed. Well, I tried that lifestyle. I weighed like 135 pounds, and I just couldn't live that way. Maybe it helped me along the way, but it wasn't practical. So we need to get to practical solutions, I think. And, medicine, there's medicines for everything today. Diabetes, right, is Ozempic and some others. So this drug is so sorely needed. Now, I want to bring up one other topic, and that is people have said, oh, if they wanted to find a cure for cancer, they would, but they make too much money from cancer treatments. Have you ever heard that before? Oh, maybe they could find a cure for heart disease, but they don't want to because it's an industry. They want people in the hospital. Have you ever heard that cynicism? I guess we'll start
Truthfully,
with...
I have not. And it's really interesting that you just made the very common heart disease and cancer comparison, because so many people... There are two things that I want to highlight.
Sure.
One is that so many people are shocked to learn that heart disease, cardiovascular disease claims more lives every year than all forms of cancer combined. Right? And people think of cancer as being the leading cause of death, or as being such a danger. And yes, it absolutely is a dangerous disease. But heart disease and cardiovascular disease it has been holding that leading spot for over 100 years.
Wow.
And the other thing that I really want to highlight is the stigma that surrounds these two diseases, heart disease and cancer. And you hate to compare them, but this is always what happens. People hear of someone being diagnosed with cancer, and they immediately view that person as a victim. They immediately feel empathy for that person. They feel sad, right? This disease has invaded this person.
Yeah.
Versus somebody's diagnosed with heart disease, and there's immediate judgment.
Yes.
There's not nearly as much empathy. Many times the first thought is, what did that person do to get themselves in that position?
Right.
And it's almost viewed as like, what did they do to deserve this diagnosis?
I agree.
And that's completely unfair. Just in the few minutes that the three of us have been speaking, we've talked about many people who have been impacted by this disease in a very unfair way, where it seems like they've been doing everything right.
Yes.
And still, nobody is immune to it. And 80% of cardiovascular diseases are preventable through lifestyle changes. However, those lifestyle changes are different. It's a case-by-case thing. They're different for every single person.
Thank you.
Yeah, that vegan diet may work for someone.
Yeah.
And then if you look at somebody, for example, we're very blessed to have the support of Dana Carvey. Dana Carvey has familial hypercholesterolemia. He could live off of grass and lettuce and broccoli, and he'd still have sky-high cholesterol. The treatment for his type of heart disease is going to be different than maybe someone like Julia's father, right? Where the plaque buildup was something completely different. So there is this judgment that goes along with heart disease that is completely unfair. And I really, really think that conversations like the one we're having today are the start of shifting that judgment and really just taking our energy and instead being on the offense against heart disease, not against the people who are impacted by it.
Well, thank you. And I have to say, my wife and my son, one of my sons still lives at home. He's 33. They are eating McDonald's, and I eat vegan, vegetarian burgers. And nobody would know. But if I told you my story and you didn't know us, you would say that I'm the one eating the Burger King. No offense to Burger King, you guys can sponsor me too. But yeah, you're absolutely right about the stigma. And I think that probably, Julie, what was so shocking upon the death of your dad is, like you were saying, it happened. Like, how could this happen? He was playing tennis. How could somebody play tennis and have clogged arteries? He would have been huffing and puffing, and he wasn't. Correct? He was. Correct,
right. That was one of the takeaways that my mom and I joke about, is that my dad looked good on the outside, right? And I think that one of the things that when everybody would come to me, right, and when it was a few months, I remember before he passed, he went to the finals in the men's doubles tournament that he played in, and everybody would come to me and say, Julia, when I'm 79, my goal is to be like your dad, right? He was such a great athlete, and he was kind of the standard. And when everybody is telling you that you'll probably just believe that he's in great health and he has years to live. And it's also because people don't want to talk about death in our society, and they don't want to talk about sudden death. And I feel the need to advocate about it as a part of what happened, and to not scare people, because there is a lot of hope. And I'm very happy with the research that's taking place and the work that's being done. So I don't want people to live in fear, because they don't need to. I love the work that's taking place.
Thank you.
But again, we're living in a society in which too often we are superficial, and there's too much of a focus on what you look like on the outside. And we need to focus more on what people look like on the inside. And with that, right, I think people really do need to be proactive when it comes to their health, and to push for these cures, and to, financially support the research that's taking place, and how, it's my mission to kind of share how important I believe that is.
Thank you. And getting back to the mental aspect, the fear, I developed a fear of heart disease. I had a phobia after seeing my father sick in the 1980s. He was getting angina attacks, it's called, where he had pains in his chest and he would have to go to the hospital. And back then, it was open heart surgery. There wasn't much else. I'm talking about the 1980s. He was in his 50s at the time. And he didn't want to have open heart surgery. So he lived with, he used to take nitroglycerin tablets and put them under his tongue to open his arteries. So I would witness this, and I started becoming really scared. And then when my mother passed away, I got it hit again. And I would, every time I felt like anxiety, I would think, oh, I'm going to be like my mother and father. I'm going to be like my mother and father. And I developed a panic disorder, which is absolutely horrible. So the long story short, though, I have a good ending to this, hopefully. When I get to be 95, I can finish the story. But is that I've been hitting it head on. I'm taking the medication, I'm seeing my cardiologist, I go to psychotherapy for anxiety, and I exercise now. I was afraid to exercise at one time, thinking that I was going to trigger a heart attack. But my doctors convinced me. They said, you have to get that heart muscle strong so that it's ready in case there is something or you need to exert yourself. They said, don't do a professional training program. I don't have to run the New York City Marathon. Julie and I live in New York. But I do swim and I walk and I ride my exercise bike so that it's pleasurable, yet I'm benefiting my heart. And I've had echocardiograms and stress tests, nuclear stress tests to look at my arteries, and I've been doing great. According to my cardiologist, I've been doing great, and I've never felt better. So I just want to tell everybody there is hope. And for these, so let's talk about the mental aspect again. If you could talk a little bit, maybe, do you guys at the association, do you provide any type of support that way?
We are solely focused on spreading awareness and on funding the research at Smidt Heart Institute. We do not have resources for mental health. I do really want to comment on something that you just said, though, which is strengthening that heart muscle, because so many studies have shown, it's undeniable that somebody who is attempting to stay in shape, keeping that heart muscle strong, versus someone who is not, if they both meet at a point where they both have a cardiac event, the person who has been working to keep their heart muscle strong will have a smoother, quicker, and more successful recovery. Okay. So good. That is so important, to just attempt that preventative step to keep that muscle strong. Very, very important. But no, to answer your initial question, no, we are solely focused on the research and spreading awareness.
Okay, great. And I wanted to also mention, we said before, Julie and I live in New York, and we were joking about Snowmageddon because we had so much snow. Yeah. How often, Julia, do we read in the newspaper that somebody passed away after shoveling snow? I mean, out here on the island, there were at least 3 deaths from snow shoveling. And those people probably had underlying heart disease. And when they exerted themselves, and I'm very sorry that happened, by the way. I don't think they're, I'm not passing judgment.
No.
I'm very careful.
It's a very common thing. That's actually like something that more people, like, it's becoming more and more talked about, is that we need to warm up for, like, shoveling snow is an exertive activity, right?
Yeah,
It's working out basically. And then you're also exposing yourself to very cold weather, which increases your risk of a cardiac event because of how it impacts your vascular system.
Right.
But then you're also in layers of clothing and sweating and doing all, you've got a lot of things coming together to kind of create this perfect storm if there is something underlying going on.
Yep. Now, my cardiologist said, when I said to him, can I shovel snow? I mean, can I? He just went, no. Do not exert yourself. Like, and I'm talking about lifting. We had 2 feet of snow here,
right?
And it was heavy, wet snow. And he said, do not do that, because something happens with the cold air, too, when you breathe in the cold air. It does something to the arteries, and I think it constricts them. And then when you go back to warm air, something will happen. Neither of us are doctors, but I've been warned. And warning to everybody out there, you could feel strong and go out there and shovel snow, and you don't want to get hit with something like that. I want to shift to the grief, because Julia touched on it, but I want to ask Julia if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit more about how you've dealt with your grief, because that's a big part of your mission too. Would you mind speaking a little bit to that?
Sure. All right. So, I mean, the first, realization when this happened was just that I never even thought that this was possible for this to happen to someone like my dad. Yeah. I was not aware of the reality of sudden death. I was not aware of the reality of how often heart-related issues and the artery plaque issues contribute to sudden death. And I, with that, there's kind of realization that we're not entirely, or, certainly sometimes just not prepared, generally speaking, in my opinion, as a society for these issues, right, for when this happens. And I think that there's a benefit to, to making people aware, and obviously having that connected to the work that's being done to reduce sudden death and to prolong life. Because, I think people sometimes are, in our society, maybe it's a Western, kind of philosophy, but people don't like to talk about this. It makes them uncomfortable and sad. But there's that old saying, there's only 2 certainties in life, death and taxes. Right. So I think there can be a benefit of it if you choose to rethink and see all of the positives from it. I mean, I am a different and I am a better person now after my father's passing. I recognize that, anything can happen, and, tomorrow is not guaranteed, right? I didn't used to think like that. I'm a much more forgiving person now that I've been through this, because I really wasn't confronted with death or sudden death by very many people before my father passed, right? I was kind of spoiled in certain ways, in many ways. Yes. So it's, I always joke that, like, my mother could do the worst thing on the planet to me now, and I would just be like, she had a bad day, we'll get her on some meds.
Isn't that something? It really
get her to do yoga. I mean, she could do the worst thing to me on the planet, and I would just be like, it's fine, keep it moving, because I just know, when I'm just so grateful to have her now, and I just know when she goes, it'll just be so much worse. So it's just so easy before you go through this, get into a fight with your mom or your dad, and you just don't think that this will happen. And I'm just a much better person now, and I don't want people to live with the regret of these silly fights that we get into. And I just want people to not have the regret, right? And I'm just a different person. I just wasn't exposed to someone so close dying so suddenly, and that I was so close to. And, again, I wasn't aware of sudden death. And I feel that the work that I'm doing to memorialize my father and support the work that the Heart Foundation is doing, will hopefully become a part of the process to, prolong life and to reduce sudden death, right, as much as we can.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And my condolences to your mom too. Please pass them along, and to other family members. let's go to next steps of what people can do in terms of the foundation. I'll kick it to Hannah. If you could give us some info, and I'll see if I could bring up the website as you're talking. I don't know if I can. I'll try. But I could always put it in later if it doesn't work out. But anyway, I'll kick it over to Hannah. Let's talk about how we can get involved with the foundation.
Absolutely. So one of the simplest ways to get involved and support us, and it costs you $0, is to follow us on social media and interact with our content.
Okay.
We put out a ton of heart healthy content that is informative, digestible. I make videos that break down groundbreaking studies or things that are in the news. Or also I'll provide you with, a chart that you can reference that helps you look at blood pressure numbers or cholesterol numbers, or simple changes you can make throughout your day that will inevitably help your heart health. So that's one way. Another way, you can go to our website, theheartfoundation.org, and do something similar to what Julia has done, which is create a fundraiser. You can do that in honor of someone, in memory of someone. You can do that just because. You can also hold fundraisers on social media. You can stream on Tiltify, which works with Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. If you're a streamer, you can do it that way, or you could do it on Instagram, or you could reach out to us about volunteer opportunities as well. That's another option as well. You can just email info@theheartfoundation.org for information on how to volunteer. And all of our social media handles are just at the Heart Foundation.
Good.
Very simple.
That's fantastic. And what is the difference, just real quick, between, I hear Heart Association a great deal. Is it similar to the organizations? Are they similar? The American Heart Association.
With the American Heart Association?
Yes.
We're not affiliated at all. They are definitely, we are the tiny but small but mighty grassroots organization, the little engine that could, if you will. And then the American Heart Association is obviously like the massive, it's like saying the American Cancer Society, right? Like just a massive foundation.
So you guys are
very proud to be in the fight alongside them. Yeah.
So you guys are more into the research of the medications, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we support research in this specific lab at the specific institution, where the American Heart Association, probably an example is, you asked about mental health resources. They probably have those amazing resources.
Okay.
They're just a much larger operation.
It sounds like there's American Cancer Society, and then there's Stand Up to Cancer, which is an organization that is looking to find the cure, just focused on finding that cure with new medications and approaches. Okay, that makes a
great example.
That helps. And I've seen Stand Up for Cancer get bigger. I've seen them at Major League Baseball events, and people are holding up placards and all that. So hopefully we can get you guys out there. And
that would be great.
That would be great. Is right. Yeah. So we'll tag all these handles. And Julia, is the fundraiser still open for your
dad? Yes, it is.
Okay. So we'll make sure. And the money from that is going toward the cause that Hannah is talking about, correct?
Absolutely, yes. That's is a part of my research, right? There were maybe a few options as to where I could start, which charity I could work with to start the fundraiser. I was looking for a charity in which 100% of the money that we raise in the fundraising page that I started in my father's name is going to one of the major causes of aortic dissection, heart disease, heart attacks, etc. Right? It's all going to find a cure for artery plaque, which is again something that some people, like my father with his family history, are genetically inclined toward. Right. Yes. So it's not like we talked about before. It's not the person's fault. There's not enough awareness that people are born genetically inclined to this, and some of them look really good on the outside. So that this is one of the reasons why I really like the Heart Foundation, because they're really focused on what we should all be mostly focused on, right? Which is finding a cure for this.
Good. Thank you. And my father-in-law, by the way, lived to be 98, and he just passed away December 27th, and he had calcification of his aortic valve. And what they had to do, 2022, is they put in they did a balloonoplasty or something like that to open the valve. He actually had COVID in the hospital. They were going to replace the valve, but couldn't because he contracted COVID. But when they went in and they looked at his arteries, they discovered that he had so much calcification that he wouldn't have survived that operation. So he actually got another 3 years of life from that procedure. And going backwards, though, he's another one that he was very active. I used to go to Home Depot with him and I couldn't keep up. I'd be out of breath when he was like 85. And he had that embedded disease that he didn't know about. He probably would have lived to be 110 if they would have known. Like somebody said before, I think, Hannah, you said we would live forever if we, or something
Julia,
like that.
Julia's doctor.
Julia said it, yeah.
The cardiologist I met with.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it, right? Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's, again, back to what Julia said about her dad, so unexpected at 80. I mean, he easily could have made 100. There's no doubt. A man playing tennis tournaments. I'm definitely helping to put this word out. I'm glad you both came. Hannah, Drake Litman and let me bring up, I'll go with the, that's the fundraiser in honor of John George Lindenthal. That's Julia's late father. And the foundation, again, is theheartfoundation.org, and it's so easy to remember. So I thank you both for coming to Lens of Hopefulness, and everybody out there, spread the word about theheartfoundation.org and the fundraiser. And we're streaming on, in case you're watching this on YouTube, we're streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Audible. I think those are the big ones. If you're hearing this, it's good that you're hearing it. And then please tell friends and family about it. And I want to thank you both again for joining. Thanks so much. This was so helpful to me personally. And my sons, too. My two sons, 30 and 33. I'm going to tell them about this. They need to watch themselves, not to scare them, but just to say, it runs in the family. So keep an eye on it. That's for everybody out there, too. So thank you both again, Julia and Hannah.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been Lens of Hopefulness with John Pasadena.
Streaming on all platforms.
Spread the word.